if you are an absent parent, know that your child will feel your absence. You know what I mean? Always know that your child will feel your absence. No one can feel that position. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with a story time. My voice is a little bit hoarse. I don't know why, because I'm actually not sick, but yeah, that's what's happening right now. Today I'll be telling you guys, I don't know if it's gonna be a story time. I mean, they are gonna be like maybe snippets of stories here and there, but basically I'll be telling you guys what it was like growing up without both my parents. And I don't think it's gonna be a sad video. I'm just like letting you guys in on what it was like growing up without both my parents. So when I was growing up, when I was still a kid, I was staying with my grandfather, and I think I stayed with him until I was like, can't really remember, but like when I was still in primary, I used to switch from my grandmother's house to my grandfather's house every now and again, but most of the time I'd be with my grandfather, right? My grandmother and my grandfather were not staying in the same house because I don't want to say they divorced because they got married traditionally, so it was not like a formal divorce type of thing. I remember my grandmother once told me that he just like packed her bags and left because of the ill treatment, not from my grandfather per se, but because of like when you, like back in the olden days, people will be ill treated like in their husbands' homes and stuff like that, but not like hectic stuff, but she felt like she just needed to leave, right? And then she left for Cape Town to stay there. She stayed in Cape Town for a while, I don't know how many years, and she had 2 babies. And then after a while she came back. I think it was my father and my aunt that brought her back to Stekstrom, my hometown, right? And then she came back, and obviously they were living in separate houses, her and my grandfather, because my grandfather, I think at that time, already had another wife. But it happened that the thingy with his new wife didn't work out, and then they had a thing with my grandmother for a little while again, but then it was over, and then that was it. Anyways, that's not my story to tell. I'm just giving you guys a little background story of how they were separated, and I used to switch between them every now and again. The reason why I would go and stay with my grandmother every now and again is because I'd get bored staying with my grandfather because I was the only grandchild. But I used to like it there because I got all the attention. Honestly, I always thought that I was my grandfather's favorite grandchild, but I also think that that's because I was the only grandchild at that time, and like he gave me all the love and all the attention. And like, to be honest, I never doubted that my grandfather loved me with all his heart, and so that's why I really liked being there with him, because I got all the love I needed, right? But anyway, I used to switch between them every now and again, and then I think when I was I want to say I was 10. I think my mother passed away when I was 10, but I could have been 9 gonna turn 10 because my mother passed away in November. No, it's actually 10 because it was past September. My mother passed away in November of 2006, and I remember when she passed away, it was like this, it was the festive season spirit. There was so much festive holiday spirit going on, and then there was this like literally this dark cloud over us, over the family, because she had passed on. It was a confusing time, obviously, because I was still young, and also at that time, you know, it's happy times, it's about to be Christmas and all of that, and everyone is supposed to be happy, and then you have this very sad thing happening. And so I remember it was like a very awkward atmosphere at home, right? And so she passed away, and before she passed away, I remember at one point in my life I was going to crèche here in Cape Town, and I was living with both my parents, my mom and my dad. My dad used to wake up and go to work. My mom would wake up and clean me up and send me to school. And I think she was still at school at that time. Actually, she was still in high school. She was married and she was still in high school. I think she had decided to go back to school, because I remember this one time I was playing like in front of the house. I remember we used to stay in a shack, so I was playing in front of the house, and my dad and his friends were just sitting there smoking, drinking, and my mother was coming from school with her uniform, literally skirt, school jersey, school shirt and everything. And I think she was mad about something. I think she was mad because my dad was sitting there and drinking. My mom would literally get mad over anything. I sometimes could not understand it. I think she was mad that my father had sent me to get him cigarettes or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I had a brief period in my childhood life where I stayed with my mom and my dad, and I remember that period, but it was for a short while, because my mom obviously would go to school sometimes. I think at some point she dropped out, and then she tried to find work, and then my dad would go to work every day, so I couldn't really stay with them for a long time, right? So anyways, that happened. My mom passed away, and so now I was left with staying with my granddad and my grandmother, right? So when my mom passed away, I was 10. I think I stayed with my granddad and my grandmother until I was 12 for 2 more years, right? And after that, my grandfather got really sick, right? And I couldn't stay with him anymore. I don't know if that's the main reason why my aunt decided to take me in, but she did send me to boarding school in Dordrecht. I spent a year in Dordrecht doing my grade 6, and I didn't do well that year, and I failed grade 6. Can you imagine? And then after that year, she decided that she was going to take me and my baby brother, that we were going to go and stay with her. She had moved to Berkeley East at that time. So we moved that side, started a new school. I was doing well at school. Like everything was just working out, right? And then I remember, I'm going to now tell you a little story time to kind of explain what it felt like growing up without parents. And remember, I don't know if I had said this to you a couple of times, but like, I am a person that really, I'm an overthinker. I think about a lot of stuff, and this started even when I was a kid, you know what I mean? Like everything that happens, I overanalyze it. So maybe that will explain where my thoughts were when this happened. So we're in Berkeley East, and it was school holidays, and then school holidays would always go back home in Stegstrom and go and stay with my grandmother, right? Because at this point my grandfather had passed on. At this point my grandfather had passed on. I have here, this is actually lemon twist. I just put it in this just to feel sexy. At this point my grandfather had passed on, right? So we go back home for the school holidays. It's me, my baby brother, and my baby cousin brother. So we go back home, and I remember when we went back home, we used to, my baby brother and my baby cousin brother, and my cousin brother, who's almost my age, is actually 1 year younger than me, they used to want to sleep in my grandmother's room. They like make a put like a mattress and blankets on the floor and sleep on the floor. I'm someone who just always liked their own space, so I'd sleep in my aunt's bedroom. If my aunt is there, I'd sleep in the other bedroom. So this one morning we woke up, and I think I know my cousin sister was also there with us for some reason, because I think at that time she had already went to varsity, because when I went to Dordrecht I was doing grade 6, and my cousin sister, who is my aunt's firstborn child, was doing her grade 12. So when I moved to Berkeley East to repeat my grade 6, my cousin was doing her first year at varsity, so she had come back for the holidays. Fine. And then this day though, my aunt and my cousin sister were gonna go to Queenstown to pick up some stuff, like buy some groceries and stuff like that, I think, and we were gonna be left behind. I don't know if they were going to Queenstown or they were going back to Berkeley East. I really can't remember. Fine. So we're just sitting and chilling, and then they prepare to leave, and then they go to the car, but they're still outside, they haven't left yet. And now what happened was, my baby brother and my baby cousin brother, they're like 1 year apart. My baby brother is 1 year younger than my cousin brother. They were fighting, right? They were fighting, and then obviously the older one is gonna beat the younger one, right? And then they were fighting, and then my cousin hits my baby brother. I don't know where it started, right? My baby brother comes to me and like he's crying, right? And I think my fault was also, I didn't try to understand what was happening, right? I went there and I'm like, "Hi, bro, what's happening?" You know what I mean? I'm asking what's happening, but I don't think I gave him a chance. I think I took his hand and I like slapped it a few times. And then my cousin now starts crying. My baby cousin. I'm saying baby cousin to differentiate him from him, the baby, and my older cousin who is almost my age. So my baby cousin also crying, and now there are two kids crying at the same time. So while they're crying, my grandmother's like, "Hey, now I don't know what to do. What should I do?" And then my cousin brother is like, "Should I go call my aunt who is my little cousin's mother, right? Should I go call her because they haven't left yet? They were just outside." And then my grandmother is like, "Yeah, go call her." He runs to go call my aunt. I don't know what he went and said to my aunt, but my aunt and my cousin sister come in running inside the house. They come in running, and then my cousin sister comforts my cousin brother, the little cousin brother. She comes in and she comforts him. My aunt comes in, doesn't ask no questions, slaps me across my face, slapped me so hard I literally fell. But I didn't fall on the ground, because they had, like I told you guys before, they used to sleep on the floor and there would be blankets on the floor and everything. But now we were preparing to get up and have breakfast and everything, so they had taken the blankets and they put it on. I don't know if you guys used to have like bins in those silver bins in your bedrooms, but my grandmother used to have those silver bins in the bedroom and store food there, mealie meal, rice and stuff like that, like sugar and stuff like that. So they had taken the blankets and put it on the bin. So when my aunt slapped me so hard, bruh, I fell on my face on top of those blankets. Luckily, I fell on top of those blankets. And then I remember getting up and looking at her and feeling like, I hate you so much. I was so hurt. I felt like I hated her because she didn't ask me anything. And I remember when she came in, because I was also scared because they had come in with so much energy and so much force, when she came in, I remember I tried to explain to her what was happening, but guys, zanga pume, like I didn't even have the chance to say what I wanted to say. Just slapped me across my face, and then she was still going on and on and on and on. And I think she was also saying stuff like, I'm gonna take my child, wada, just saying that, I guess thinking that she's gonna leave my little cousin brother here and I'm gonna abuse him or something like that. And then she's going on, and then my grandmother's like, no man, I'm done. And obviously my cousin didn't want to go because he wanted to play with the kids. And then my grandmother was like, no, hamba wethu, nothing's gonna happen, wada. And then I was still lying down there, and I was crying. And I remember getting up and going to the other room, and I'm so hurt, guys. I'm so hurt. I'm so angry at the same time. I go to the other room and I start crying, and I cried. I remember I cried for a long time. And I think my grandma was like, why are you crying so much? Like, everyone was just like, it's over, bruh. Like, why are you still crying? But I think the reason why I was so hurt about that incident is that because like I said, I'm someone who really just sits and thinks about a lot of things and come with my own conclusions. I felt like I didn't have anyone to run to, you know what I mean? Because my baby brother felt attacked by my little cousin and ran to me, but my cousin also felt attacked by me because I'm older than him, and indirectly ran to his mother. But when my aunt attacked me, I had no one to run to. That was like the end of the chain. I didn't have anyone to run to. So I was so hurt about that, and I was crying. Like, I cried, guys. I cried a long time, and I remember I was so hurt. And I remember I was thinking, but this is bullshit. Literally, I was thinking, this is some bullshit. I don't like how I'm feeling. I just don't like this feeling. So, like, this is just one of the things that would happen that would make me tell myself that I have to fight for myself. You know what I mean? Like, I have to fight for myself. I don't have anyone to fight for me. And it's really heartbreaking when obviously my mom had passed away. I couldn't go to her because she had passed away, but I had a dad, but my dad was not around. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say, it's really heartbreaking when you know that you have a parent that is alive, because there's nothing you can do about you losing your mother or your father. If they're gone, they're gone. They can't come back. But if you have a parent that is alive but not in your life, it can be very hurtful. So those are just some of the things that would happen in my life that would make me feel like growing up without your parents is very hard. And sometimes it's not even the worst things that can happen to you. It's just like stuff like this. This is not the worst thing that can happen to anyone, but it can have a very great impact and very great trauma. I think one of, like, this specifically is just one of the things that is kind of a trauma in my life that made me come up with coping mechanisms. You know what I mean? Not open myself too much to people, not expect anything from people. Honestly, I don't expect anything from people, and I think that's a trauma response to my childhood. It's just a coping mechanism. Not expect anything from people. Just always tell yourself that I'm going to do it myself. If I need protection, I'm going to protect myself. And sometimes that can be very dangerous, because if you don't think that you have protection here at home where you should find it, you find ways of finding it outside. And people outside are not always the best people. They're not always looking out for you, especially boys. Boys are just boys. Boys are not looking to protect you or give this and that to you, because they're also kids. Sometimes they're also kids. Sometimes, yes, they are trash. Sometimes they are trash, but sometimes they just don't know any better. They're also just kids. They haven't grown up. They don't know what you need. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was what it was like for me growing up without parents, I literally would isolate myself, and I think that was a mechanism for me to try and stay away from getting hurt, so that I don't have to exert so much energy trying to protect myself. In that way, when I'm alone, no one can hurt me, you know what I mean? And therefore I don't have to work so hard to protect myself. So yeah, anyways, when I tell the story, this is not to villainize anyone. This is just like kind of giving you an idea of what it felt like even sometimes maybe some of you would be like, this is small stuff, you know what I mean? Even sometimes the smallest things can have a great impact on the kind of person you turn out to be. And for me, this is one of those things that happened in my life. Literally, I remember a lot of things that happened. I remember a lot of things that happened, but like obviously I'm not gonna tell everything because I don't have to, I guess. And also I'm not trying to say only the bad things about people, because there are good things that I can say about them. But like what I'm trying to say is this is one of those that really stuck out to me because it really got to me. And now when I look back, I understand why it hurt so much. At that time it hurt, and I was feeling like I felt like this person is taking advantage of me, but maybe she wasn't. But like when I look back now, I understand why I felt like that, you know what I mean? Like I can literally break it down and say this is probably why I felt like this, because of that, right? So yeah, that's what it was like for me, growing up without both parents. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. And I once heard or read something that says the kind of person you turn out to be in the future, the kind of grown-up you turn out to be, can sometimes be solely based on the childhood you have. And I agree with that so much. Your childhood years are so important. They really mold the kind of grown-up you're gonna be, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. But sometimes bad things can happen that can open your eyes and say, okay, when I grow up, this thing messed me up, so when I grow up I want to fix this with my kids or someone else's kids or something like that. But yeah, what I also learned is that even though there's only so much people can do for you, there's only so much people can do for your children. There's only so much people can do for your children. And so it's always better to make sure that you are present in your child's life, because only you can love your child unconditionally. I truly believe that. And this is not to say, like, sometimes when I think about this and I ask myself, okay, what about abandoned adopted, you know what I mean, what about kids that are adopted? And I feel like that's a whole different topic that I'm not willing to talk about because I don't understand it. But like I'm saying, like kids that are passed on, like for instance, if you pass away as a parent and then someone else has to take responsibility for your kids, they didn't really want that responsibility, you know what I mean, but they feel like they need to take responsibility because who else is going to take that responsibility, you know what I mean? And that can be a very different story. People can try very hard to take care of your children. I think that my aunt did a great job taking care of me, but I can positively say that I never felt like she was my mother. I've always known that she is not my mother, and I always felt like she's not my mother, and that was not her job because she's not my mother, you know what I mean? And yeah, and so what I'm trying to tell you is that if you are an absent parent, know that your child will feel your absence. You know what I mean? Always know that your child will feel your absence. No one can feel that position. And don't ever think that you like, they're gonna be fine. They're not gonna be fine, because there is someone, especially if you're still alive, there is someone out there that should feel this part of my heart or this part of my life, but that person is not feeling this part of my life, and now it's empty, and someone else is trying to feel that part, but it doesn't feel right. That person will never feel it the way that you as the biological parent would feel that space. I don't know how that comes out, and I don't know if maybe it might be a debate to other people, but like, yeah, I might have been all over the place, but I just felt like I needed to share that. I hope you enjoyed it. Do stay tuned for other story times. Maybe I will do another story time, and I'll show you guys more of my life. So thank you for tuning in. Please do subscribe if you haven't. Like this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.